Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today we are talking about what is on the tip of everybody's tongue at the moment, what politicians talk about and the general public, and is very high profile but not necessarily looks like it's being managed as such. So in this episode we're taking a clear user-friendly look at how Britain manages both legal and illegal immigration, not through politics but through the operational reality. A department that every country has, but almost none of them run well. So, as usual, before I begin, the disclaimer. So, this review is based on my own observations, my professional background in leadership, and my experiences watching the system operate as a member of the public. It isn't legal advice, it isn't political commentary, and it isn't a criticism of the people working in immigration, border control, or enforcement. The staff on the ground are under intense pressure. My aim is simple. It's to highlight the operational issues, share insights from my experience in health, safety, well-being, environment and security, and encourage constructive improvement because immigration management matters and we all want it to succeed. So good evening. Welcome to Britain the Corporation. So we are reviewing a department that every country has, but none of them manage effectively. A department responsible for managing one of the most complicated challenges of the modern world, the movement of people. Some people arrive legally, some arrive illegally. Some arrive seeking safety, some arrive seeking opportunity. Some arrive just because they have nowhere else to go. And the job of the immigration service and its chaotic sibling, the illegal immigration service, is to manage all of that fairly, safely and efficiently. But right now these two divisions are trying to run a global operation with the system, staffing, technology of a company that still thinks a fax machine is cutting edge. So tonight I'm going to analyse immigration and illegal immigration limited in the same way that I would any underperforming organisation, not with any emotion and not with politics, but with the operational reality. Initially, the legal system, the part of the business that should be boring, but it's not. So, starting with the legal side, this division handles work visas, study visas, skilled migration, family reunification, long-term residency, citizenship, humanitarian protection. In a well-run organisation, this would be the calm, predictable part of the business, the bit with rules, clear processes and clear outcomes. But in Britain, the corporation, and many other countries, the immigration system is running on outdated IT, slow processes, long queues, inconsistent communication, and a backlog that grows faster than it shrinks. This isn't just a British issue, though. Canada, which is admired worldwide, still struggles with delays. Germany has faced repeated surges that have overwhelmed the local offices. Japan has strict rules, but still battles slow processing. New Zealand had to overhaul its entire visa system because it buckled under the demand. Legal immigration should be the easy part. Instead, it's a maze. If this were a business, the board would be asking why simple customers are stuck in a queue that looks like a line for a theme park ride on a bank holiday. And the customer journey. If this were a business, the journey map would be a safety hazard in itself, whether someone enters legally or illegally. The entry system that's slow, confusing, under-resourced and unpredictable. Cases take months or years, updates disappear, communication's minimal, and the backlog grows like an unmonitored inbox. Other countries do face the same problems though. The US immigration courts are so overloaded in some hearings that they're scheduled years in advance. Italy and Greece face constant pressure due to their geography alone. Sweden had to redesign its entire process after delays became unmanageable. If this were a corporation, the customer journey map would be a health and safety hazard. And illegal immigration, the irregular system. So that's the part of the business that is always in crisis. So talking about illegal immigration, it's the division that's responsible for managing irregular arrivals. This includes people entering without permission, people overstaying visas, people being smuggled or trafficked, people arriving through dangerous routes, which is what we see every day, people who disappear into the system. The division expected to track, process, house, assess, enforce. But it's trying to do all that with limited staff, limited space, and limited technology. And international cooperation is absolutely necessary for that. But it's not just unique to Britain. The US has millions of undocumented individuals. France struggles with the enforcement capacity in major cities. Spain has admitted that tracking overstays is nearly impossible. Australia built offshore centres because its mainland capacity just couldn't cope. If this were a business, the head of logistics would be explaining why half the stock isn't labelled and the other half is stored in the wrong building. On the enforcement gap, so a tracking system that can't track, one of the biggest operational failures is this enforcement gap. People who are entering the country illegally, they're often disappearing into the system, not because the officers don't care, but because the system isn't designed to track them effectively. It's like running a warehouse where the inventory system crashes, the labels fall off and the stock moves itself. Other countries face this same issue. The US struggles to track visa overstayers. Italy and Greece face constant pressure from the irregular arrivals. Australia's offshore system was built because the mainland couldn't cope. If this were a corporation, the COO would be asking why the tracking system is still running on Excel spreadsheets. And resource, a global operation run on local office resources. Immigration and illegal immigration, they're on overload. Border force, immigration officers, courts, detention centres, local authorities, support services, legal teams, security staff, all under pressure, all under resource, all expected to deliver more with less. This is a global pattern though. Germany had to convert sports halls into emergency accommodation. Australia outsourced entire parts of its system. The US regularly runs out of detention space. If this were a corporation, the CFO would be asking, why have we launched major initiatives without increasing the capacity? And as usual, the optics. When the press release arrives before the plan, immigration and illegal immigration often behave like companies that prioritise the headlines over the outcomes. In business, this is called preformative strategy. It looks good and it sounds good. It reassures the shareholders, but it doesn't actually work. This isn't just a British problem, it's global. The US always announces crackdowns every election cycle. Italy announces new measures every summer. Australia announces tougher policies every few years. If this were a corporation, the marketing department would be celebrating and the operations team would be hiding in a corner somewhere panicking. And the people holding the system together are just exhausted. So the area that I know about best: health, well-being, safety, environment and security. So for the staff working in immigration and border control, the pressure is enormous. Long hours, high stress, emotional strain, traumatic situations and constant political scrutiny. This is universal though. US border agents do report high burnout rates. Italian Coast Guard crews faced extreme pressure. Greek island staff work in some of the toughest conditions in Europe. In any other organisation, well-being is absolutely the priority. Here it's probably discussed after burnout has already happened. If this were a corporation, the health and safety audit would be brutal and unforgiving. So a workflow looks like a plate of spaghetti in a well-run organisation would just not happen. It needs clear, predictable system. Within the immigration systems, the process resembles a conveyor belt that stops, reverses, jams, overheats, and probably occasionally catches fire. Other countries do have the same issues, it's not just Britain. The US has a backlog that could fill a stadium. Germany's system has surges all the time. Sweden had to redesign its entire processes. And the risk register must just be glowing red. In a well-run organisation, risk is assessed and mitigated and controlled. Here, risk is managed by press releases from what I can see. Operational, legal, reputational, humanitarian, security, diplomatic risk, all high, all predictable, but largely unaddressed. This isn't unique to Britain though. The US faces constant legal challenges. The EU faces reputational risk during crises. Austria faces humanitarian criticisms for offshore processing. If this were a company, the risk register would just be a sea of red. And a few questions and answers. So I wanted to understand what the public thinks. So a few questions that have come up. So why does it take so long? So it takes so long because the system was built for a different era. Demand has far outgrown capacity. Why can't we just speed it up? Well, speeding up a broken process just creates faster mistakes. Why don't we track people better? Because the tracking system's older than some of the staff using it, maybe even myself. And why don't other countries have this problem? They do, but perhaps not to the extent we do. Every country is struggling just in different ways. Why can't we fix it? We can, but it requires leadership, investment and cooperation, not the slogans that we've seen. So what would a well-run company do? So the basics aren't complicated, they're just not happening. A competent organisation would build the strategy before the slogan, increase capacity before increasing demand, modernise the systems, invest in staff, well-being, prioritise based on impact, not the headlines, work with partners, use data, avoid the drama, and design processes that actually flow. In other words, it behave like a business that functions well and wants to survive. And imagine a system that actually works. Imagine immigration and illegal immigration with clear processes, modern systems, realistic targets, a supported workforce, international cooperation, transparent communication, and a leadership team that listens. It's not impossible. Other countries have made progress. Britain, the corporation, could too. It's just not happening. So human reflection. So behind every case is a person. It's easy to talk about immigration in numbers, backlogs, targets, statistics, graphs, but behind every case, either legal or illegal, is a person, a family, a story, a fear, a hope, a mistake, and a dream, maybe even a crisis. And behind every decision is a member of staff trying to do the right thing, and often it impacts individuals in the UK. This isn't always a story about villains and heroes. It's a story about the systems, and the systems can be fixed. So talking about the channel and what we want to do next. So the immigration system's not failing just because of the people. It's struggling because of the structure. If Britain were a corporation and a real business, the leadership team, if they still existed, would be reviewing processes, rebuilding systems and investing in the workforce. Instead, we continue to function despite any structure, not because of it. And it's not just one division. This is just one example of what happens when a country is run with an operational discipline of a badly organised filing cabinet. So here's what I want to do next. I want to review more departments in Britain. Transport, education, housing, local councils, any part of this country that would never survive if it were a real, well-run organisation. So if there's a department, a service or a public system that you want me to review next, please leave it in the comments. Tell me where you want the spotlight to go, because if this country really were a business, someone would be asking tougher questions. And on this channel, that's what I want to do. So thank you for watching and welcome to Britain the Corporation.